Welcome to StartupHakk. My name is Spencer Thomason. I am the CEO and co-founder of CleanRouter, as well as many other products. Here are some lessons that I've learned building a successful business while challenging startup norms. My challenge is to push you to rethink startup success. Welcome to StartupHakk.
Welcome to StartupHakk. Today we're going to talk about when the right time is to hire an employee. Now, first of all, there's no perfect time. And I would say in most cases, my mistakes have been on hiring too early. But in the current job market, with how difficult it can be to hire, a lot of people are really struggling with hiring too late. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things to consider of when the right time to hire is. So my first thing in saying that generally I think we've made the mistakes in hiring too early is that whenever I've taken the time to automate a job or a process that I think that I had to hire for, every time that I've ever had automated or worked through the process to streamline it as much as possible to avoid hiring, I've never regretted it. When I've spent that time and that development cost up front, whether it be my own time for development or spending some dollars and actually developing a system to automate a process so that either a smaller number of people can do it, or B, like an existing employee could do a small task once a day. These are the types of things that generally make it so that once I've paid that price, I never regret it. There's a lot of things with CleanRouter that we automated very early on that still today we use in our processes that actually are still being used even 10 years later. And so if you can, my big piece of advice there is if you can pay to automate it, then automate it. Now, then there's a fine balance to that too, though, because at the same time, sometimes if you don't know that the process is going to exist, then you automating it up front could cost a lot of money, and suddenly you find out you don't even need to do that. So that becomes a tough balance because in some ways too, you want to make sure you actually flush out the process. So make sure that you've done the manual process long enough, even yourself, before you spend the time to automate it or to even hire for it. Because a lot of times as you do that, you may flush out some things that you can do better or that you can even streamline in the process. And so it's a fine balance there. But so for example, if you're going to be a company that's going to ship something, automating the shipping process is something you're going to have to do. There may be a way that you can drop ship or whatever, but if you're building a custom something, or if you're building if you know that you have a product that you're going to end up having to ship, getting that process streamlined as fast as possible is going to save you money right from the get-go. And so this is just one example, whereas you might think, man, I need to hire somebody to ship this. An example of this is I've automated pretty much everything inside of the order fulfillment process for CleanRouter to a point where we're still doing our own shipping, and actually my 14-year-old son is doing that right now. And so we have it streamlined so well that he's able to set up the routers, box them, flash them, and get a shipping and scans it and gets a shipping label, and it takes him a couple of minutes per unit. So this is an example of a way that if you can streamline the process and automate everything in it, then I didn't need to hire anybody. And I've saved over the 10 years, I've just saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in that. So that's an example where paying for that automation costs right up front. Now, a lot of times though, when you're in startup mode, then a lot of times doing things manual can be smart. And so if you have an existing employee that you can add a task to that's 15 to 30 minutes a day, to work with you to streamline that process, a lot of times those are going to be simpler parts than trying to automate it. So that you can flush through some of the process. And for the project that we're working on right now, that's an example. Rather than building out a very complex payment system, we're going to have some very manual payments at first as we get through some of the very first iterations of the beta version. So these are a couple of things to think about and to consider as you're working in your business on when the right time to hire is. Now, on the flip side, there are times when you know that you're going to need to make this hire. Don't put it off. If you know 100% you're going to need to make a hire, the sooner you start on that process, the better, especially in the current job market where it can be very difficult to find people and hire them. And generally people are finding they're having to pay more than they originally anticipated they would for roles. Then make sure that you start on this process early. So those are a few of the things to think about that I definitely think you should consider as you're working to decide whether or not you should be hiring, and when is the right time to hire. And so hopefully that's giving you something that's helped out. If that's giving you anything to help out, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We do, multiple different things, but mostly I give a lot of business advice to help with especially new and developing entrepreneurs. So make sure you like and subscribe. Also make sure you get your CleanRouter to keep your kids safe online, as well as your CleanPhone, so your kids can be safe on the go, and so you can monitor and monitor their usage as they're using their phones. Thanks. Have a good one.